So without any further ado, I'd like to invite our Chairman and Founder, Dr. James Morton, to say a few words.
Thank you, Alan. Welcome, everybody. It's a great pleasure with all the people here today. There are a few late stragglers still to come. A particular welcome to the families who have come afar, the families from Toowoomba, Townsville, and particularly families from Emerald, which is a new service delivered in partnership with Good Start, and it's the first service of its kind, which is really working a way forward in how to get these services into families from rural communities. Now, the good-looking fellow in this picture is my son, Andrew. And Andrew was diagnosed with autism in 2002. And when he was diagnosed with autism, the services around were very, very limited. So there were 12 two-day-a-week placements available and very, very little else other than 1 hour a week in the disability service units. The waiting lists were long. It would have seen Andy in school before he was able to access an early intervention placement. We were very fortunate in that we got him into a pilot program run by Education Queensland at Junction Park. There were 6 children in the program. There was 1 teacher and 2 teacher aides. And it started with PECS. Andy was talking or starting to talk for the first time in 3 days, and he went forward dramatically over that year. Unfortunately, after 12 months, that program was closed down, and that was the motivation for establishing AEIOU. We decided to set up AEIOU within the framework of childcare for 3 reasons. Firstly, the childcare setup gave us a very good legislative framework for developing our service around safety and caring for children. Secondly, in theory, it opened the door to a lot of Commonwealth funding, and I'll talk a little bit about the fact that that door is yet to be fully opened. And thirdly, and I think most importantly, at the time when Andy was little, the onus was on the families to be not only carers and parents, but also to be therapists. And families, raising a little child with autism is one of the toughest things that families can do, and there's a body of research that shows just how hard it is. And we thought by establishing this service in the framework of childcare, it would provide families with some of those vocational and social opportunities that other families take for granted. The ability for both parents to work, the ability for both parents to participate in the lives of their other children. So part of the vision in setting up with AEIOU was around funding, but it was also around family structure and family function. Just push. Okay, so in 2003, late 2003, we bought an old church at Maruka, which I'll never buy an old church again, particularly one that's heritage listed. During 2004, we fitted it out as a childcare centre, and in early 2005, the first group of 12 children started there with 6 staff. Now, we got a lot of help. I can remember on the Friday before we opened, the guy who was doing the licensing came out and said the old back railings on the church were only 1 metre high. And they'd just changed the Childcare Act and they had to be 1.2 metres high and we couldn't open. And on the weekend, the builder came in and nailed up plywood, and the painter came in and painted up the boards, and the licenser came in on a Sunday. And on Monday, on the fax machine at 9 o'clock, as the first kids were coming through the program, the licence to operate happened. And I think that's fairly symbolic of the support that we've received from many sources over the years in getting the AEIOU program up and going. Those were a very pioneering group of families. We've stayed very close to those families, and indeed our wonderful fundraising coordinator, Jane Harris, her little boy Ollie was part of that initial program, and Jane is probably one of the most passionate people you could see about little children with autism, and particularly AEIOU. Now, 6 years on, and Queensland has a network, and Minister, this is something that your government should be very proud about. This is unique in Australia, and it's probably unique anywhere in the world, that there is this network of centres. The green dots are the AEIOU centres, the red dots are the Centres from Autism Queensland, and the orange dots are linked to the just released tender for Mackay and for Bundaberg that will also see services developed at Gladstone and in other parts of that district. And if you can see, there's a lot of dots there. And basically, I think in the next year or two in Queensland, where you live and what you earn will not be a barrier any longer to getting proper services for your young child with autism, and that's unique on a global scale. It nonetheless has challenges. So in 2005, we started off with 6 staff and 12 children. By 2011, we will have 200 children in our program and 140 staff. One of the biggest challenges is finding staff with expertise. We have a number of strategies in going forward to identify and find these staff. It's no accident that our last two centres, that is the centre at Griffith and the centre up the Sunshine Coast, are being built on university campuses. And the tender that we're submitting for Bundaberg will involve a centre being constructed on the university's campus as Bundaberg as well. And that's a real key. By placing these centres on university campuses, there will be direct interaction between those universities' early childhood and therapy programs and this program. Students will do placements in our centres. Students will work part-time in our centres. The next generation of professionals that will be working with our children either in the early childhood setting or in the school setting will have ASD experience, which is not the case at the moment. So strategically, one of our key directions in going forward to address the staffing issue is to build our centres where people are learning. But also, I think very importantly, is to have more and more students working part-time. It seems crazy to me to have a speech therapist or an occupational therapist student earning $20 an hour at Coles when they could be earning that money at AIU. So one of the key things that we are going to see rolled out over the next year is a team, a student-based team that will work part-time in the program. That will also relieve some of the burden on our staff as well. Our other big challenge is funding. So our program costs $43,000 a year to deliver. We are very well supported by the Queensland Government. We charge fees, as you know, of $25,000 a year. That still leaves a funding deficit of around $8,000 per annum per child. As I mentioned, we receive no direct Commonwealth funding. The crazy anomaly out there is that if our 160 children currently enrolled and 200 children next year were to go to 200 different childcare centres around Queensland, the federal government would provide 200 lots of $20,000 of direct funding for those children to be enrolled in a childcare centre and not receive a best practice program. And this is an argument we've had with previous ministers Brough and Macklin, and it's an argument that we will continue to prosecute and try and address. However, it remains a battle and we have to develop strategies around that. We have a very active fundraising program, and there's a real appeal here from me and from the board and our staff to get involved. And there are many, many ways that families can get involved in our fundraising program. This year we had the biggest team in the Bridge to Brisbane. We had 160 participants and we raised $60,000 through that Bridge to Brisbane. The top 10 fundraisers were AIU families who created a message, sent it out to their email database, their friends and families donated electronically, and we raised $60,000. There is no reason to me that every family cannot be represented in this team next year. We want to build the biggest team Australia has ever seen in a Bridge to Brisbane event or a City to Surf event, etc. Make it really special. That's Jane's Blue team, and let's make it bigger and better and get everyone involved. It is a really, really easy way for families to participate in fundraising to help us address the funding deficiency for each of their children. The other way to help is through our corporate sponsorship program. We have a program called 1040-600. This links a business's corporate social responsibility program, which is $10,000, to the $30,000 of government funding to create a $40,000 placement for a child with autism and a lifetime cost saving to the community of $600,000. We have about 50 businesses signed up to this program. It is our main fundraising strategy. We have a great business manager, Michael Brazier. What you guys need to do is, if you know of a business, are connected to a business knows about your story, open the door for Michael and Michael will walk through that door. So a second way that families can help us is to put us in touch with businesses who can help to support our children through this program. There are many ways we help a business to participate in that program. We have an event called Paddle for Kids, which is in the first half of the year, and we have this new event called Take a Hike. Take a Hike is a symbolic walk by business people where they walk 40 kilometres, walking a day. They carry on their back a pack weighing 15 kilos, which is the average weight of a 3-year-old child, the average age of children in our program. 2 or 3 weekends ago, 26 business people from around Brisbane walked. They raised $200,000, and we're going to roll this program out in each of our regional centres. So again, Toowoomba and Townsville families, if you can help us to connect to businesses, we'll hook up the people to participate in this walk. It's a unique challenge for business people. You'll see this fellow who's breathtaking up in the top picture there. He runs one of Australia's biggest pharmacies, and he did the whole walk in a mankini, as you can see. And as the walk went on, Stuart progressively stripped down. It was very ugly from 30 k's on. Stuart raised nearly $20,000 himself, and he got $2,500 for wearing the mankini. Thank heavens, because he was offered $2,000 to wear a French maid's outfit, which would have been a long way to walk with Stuart. You can see Ian Skippon and Ian Healy in the bottom corner. Ian, Triple M, did a big thing on the Friday afternoon where one of our parents rang in and just had a Friday morning. It was so moving. He's raised $20,000, which funds 2 kids through the program as well. So, as I said, with the fundraising, there are many ways you can be involved, but the 2 key ways are the Blue Team and help Michael to connect with businesses who know your story that can facilitate us connecting them with this really brilliant program.